Session 1 of the Roundtable discussion will address the issue of funding for businesses who employ staff with disability. And to speak to this, I'd like to introduce everyone to Renee Soloman. Renee is one of the Eye to the Future team members, a project officer. So over to you, and thanks, Renee.
Thanks, Nicole, and hello, everyone. Lovely to cyber meet you all. As Nicole mentioned, my name's Renee and I'm a project officer at BCA working on an Eye to the Future. So welcome to everybody and thank you for joining us today. I'm going to speak, as Nicole said, to one of the most common myths attached to hiring a person with a disability, and that, of course, is cost. Namely, in this space, the cost of adapting the workplace environment and the cost of assistive technology. I'll go further into explaining this, but we can bust this myth straight away and tell you that there are absolutely no costs associated with hiring a person that's blind or vision impaired. Firstly, it's important to recognise that not all people with vision loss require adjustments. There's several variables, but most commonly it will depend on the extent of vision loss and also that some employees already own the assistive tech they require to perform their roles. However, where there is a need, the Australian Government provides all the funding requirements for this through their Job Access program that was designed to fund and promote disability employment. So what is Job Access? Job Access is the national hub for workplace and employment information for people with disability, as well as for employers. As I mentioned, it's funded by the Australian Government and the services are then delivered by industry professionals. The aim of Job Access is to provide free support to help remove the barriers to employing people with disability. They provide an advice service for both employers and employees, an employer engagement team which works to connect employers with talent, and of course a workplace modification service funded by the Employment Assistance Fund, which covers everything from a person with a disability requires to work safely and productively, such as workplace assessments and adjustments, training and assistive technology requirements. Job Access can coordinate all of this. So what is the Employment Assistance Fund? The Employment Assistance Fund provides employers with the financial assistance needed for work-related modifications, equipment and services that help people with disability to get employment and perform their work independently and productively. What the Employment Assistance funding provides will obviously be tailored to the needs of the employee and the workplace, so what's provided will always vary. Typically, however, if the amount of funding required will exceed $1,000, a service provider will visit the workplace and carry out a workplace modification assessment to help figure out what modifications or equipment will best meet the employee's needs so that they can work safely and efficiently. The assessment is carried out by a qualified professional, and the assessor looks at the workplace environment and any barriers that may exist, and then talk with the employee and the employer to find solutions to make the workplace more flexible and accessible. For a person who's blind or vision impaired, workplace modifications may include items such as a larger monitor or software that magnifies the text on screen, technology that converts the text on screen into sound via headphones called a screen reader, large button telephones, large print keyboards, mobile phones with text-to-speech software to allow for use of text messaging, installation of blinds or curtains over windows to reduce glare, or even magnification aids and devices to magnify hard copy documents, to name a few things. So what are the eligibility requirements for the Employment Assistance Fund? It's quite basic. The employee must be an Australian resident. The person must already be recruited with the organisation and the position expected to continue for at least 13 weeks in a role that requires at least 8 hours of work per week. The employee must also have an ongoing disability that has lasted or will last 2 years at least, and the disability obviously must limit, restrict or impair their ability to work in order for the organisation to be eligible. So how to make an application for the Employment Assistance Fund. Before making an application to Job Access, the Employment Assistance Fund, it's important that you speak to the employee seeking reasonable adjustments about their specific needs. The reason for this is that what one person who is blind or vision impaired may need can be quite different to another person with sight loss. Some employees may know what modifications they need from previous work experience, while other employees may need a workplace assessment to work out what modifications or technology would best suit them. If a workplace assessment is needed, Job Access will arrange a specialist to confirm what workplace changes are required. Once an employee knows what technology or other workplace adjustments they'll need to perform their job, the organisation can then submit an application to Job Access for the Employment Assistance Fund. There's no cost associated with a workplace modification assessment either. After submitting the application, Job Access will assess it and let you know the outcome. And once the application is approved, the organisation can then go ahead and purchase the goods and services and then have the costs reimbursed by Job Access. A couple of important points about that, however, is that when purchasing the equipment to be reimbursed by Job Access, it's the organisation that initially pays for the equipment and not the employee. The organisation then claims the reimbursement through Job Access, which typically takes around 30 days. Any equipment purchased through Job Access for an employee belongs to the employee and not the organisation. So when that employee leaves the organisation and goes to another position, they take that equipment with them. It's also important to be aware that the process of having a workplace assessment, submitting an application for the Employment Assistance Fund, having it approved, and then purchasing the technology can obviously take some time. So it's important to be aware that it can take up to 6 weeks in some cases, and you need to start this process as soon as possible after the employment contract is signed, and also allow for this with the employee's contracted start date. The other support available through Job Access is really their website. They have multiple resources, including an employer toolkit that provides short video lessons and downloadable resources. There's also a dedicated advice line for a free and confidential discussion, as well as tools and resources to assist organisations in creating a more flexible work environment and recruiting and retaining people with a disability. Lastly, while we're on the topic of cost, I'd also like to mention that one of the standout features of an Eye to the Future is that, unlike some disability employment services, there's absolutely no fee for service. An Eye to the Future can source candidates on your behalf, assist with the recruitment process, and we will work with you and the intern through every duration of the internship.